Hey there, Beavemanites and Docutrons. It is I, the Beaveman, coming to you from Renegade Beaver Studios here in beautiful Michigan. You know, I don't often talk before the podcast. The only reason I'm doing it this time is because I just got done editing this podcast, and I was kind of laughing quite a bit. And the reason why is, you know, I don't play the guitar, and you'll find that out in the podcast. But me and the Ricker decided I was going to play my guitar a little bit during this podcast, and then I forced the Ricker to sing a little bit, and it sounds fucking horrible, but it's fucking hilarious. So just to warn you ahead of time, as I say in the podcast, I don't really play the guitar. I'm pretty bad at it. And I'm not saying the Ricker's a bad singer, but I did put him on the spot, and he didn't really get to practice with me. But we do fuck it up quite a bit, but you're going to have some fun listening to it. So it stayed in the podcast. It is unedited. So please just listen and enjoy. And as always, I don't know. What do I usually say? I don't really say as always anything. I don't know. Look towards the horizon. Keep your feet and knees together. Turn your head and cough. I don't know. Lift with your legs. Something like that. I don't know. Just enjoy the podcast. And happy holidays.
Beavemanites and Docutrons, assemble!
Okay, so back in the day, I was way above the wave, man. I traded in the girls for the video games. I played so much Super Smash Bros. Other kids called me names.
Elvis Blue Christmas.
So blue. I'm just thinking about you. This is Beaveman of the Dock, and I'm the Beaveman coming to you from Renegade Beaver Studios. Yeah, the best studios in this house. And with me today is Rick, the Ricker, the Rickster, the Ricky. Yeah, the Ricker. Let's go with the Ricker, man. Taking you back to the Silver Spoon days.
Nice.
Nice.
Howdy.
And with us also is Paper Doc. Shout out to Paper Doc. What do you got to say? Oh, hey, okay, shut the fuck up and sit down. God, sometimes that fucking Paper Doc. Anyway, I didn't mean to talk over the Ricker. Say hello, Ricker. Give us a
Hello,
shout
Ricker.
out. God, fuck. Nobody ever comes up with a better way of doing their greeting than saying hello to themselves when I say hello. It's Christmas time in Michigan, and still seeing Michiganders wearing shorts outside. You know you're in Michigan because everybody likes to wear shorts with a winter coat and a hat. I don't know why. Men, cargo shorts. I don't get it. I don't wear cargo shorts in the summertime. I don't fucking wear shorts, usually, unless I'm working out. But I digress, and I wander about as I talk about these things. It's almost like an opening monologue because Ricky's not fucking saying a goddamn thing as we just sit here and converse, and he's just laughing like a fucking fool. Anyway.
That's my job.
That's your job. That's your job, to laugh like a fucking fool. So, little announcement. I don't know if anybody knows this, and if you don't know it, I don't know, you're living under a fucking rock. The last Star Wars movie is coming out. Well, not the last Star Wars. This of these three, I think, probably The Rise of Skywalker. What's going to happen, Rick?
I have absolutely no idea. I assume Skywalker will rise.
You're like, Skywalker is the name of Ben Solo's penis, and it will rise in this movie, and that's what's actually going to happen. He's going to see Rey wearing something kind of alluring, much like Princess Leia did in the third movie in Return of the Jedi. Actually, oh god, if you really want to get to it, sixth movie.
Right.
And his Skywalker is going to rise. That's what's going to happen.
Skywalker's going to rise. I got to be able to use that later.
Yeah, keep that. Somehow
force
I'm
be
going to
with
fit
you.
that. Somehow I will fit that in. Somehow I'll fit that. I'm excited. I don't get to see it today. It's already opened. By the time you hear this podcast, I generally like to release the podcast on a Sunday or a Monday. So by then, I will have seen The Rise of Skywalker. Hopefully it's not his penis, because I don't want to spend 2.5 hours looking at Ben Solo's penis rise. Yeah, Adam Driver, you're a nice guy, but I don't want to see your penis. Crickets from Ricky over here. He's not...
Chirp, chirp.
He's not saying the fucking thing. Okay, well, let me get on to the topic of this week then, because the shorts or the small talk is going very poorly, and I'm about to throat punch someone.
I seem to be the only one in the room, so I'm going to go ahead and start talking.
I guess I can safely say that I will not get throat punched. Yes, you can safely say that.
He's literally all talk and no action.
Yeah. Let's take us back. The year is 1991.
91.
Where were you 1991?
I was a senior in high school. 1991. Bellevue, Michigan.
Wow, thank you.
I had nothing. I wasn't prepared for a question. I was even like coming up on, growing my hair long, trying to be like Poison.
I had all these great things I was going to fucking say, and somebody asked me a question, and I was just like, where were you?
Where were you? Is this an inquisition? Leave me alone. Mostly trying to get laid. Where were you?
Let's see. Let me try this here. Yeah. Where were you? That's my flashlight clicking. Apparently, somebody just panics when a question's asked. Okay,
right.
Well, let me try it. I'm going to go ahead and let me see where I was in 1991. There I was. 1991. I was a senior in high school. You were a senior in high school in 1991?
No. I was a junior in high school in 1991.
Okay.
91, 92. I was a senior when what we're about to talk about happened.
All right, so I'm going to go with you. I'm going to agree. I'm going to say 91. I consider 91 half of 91. I don't really consider that my school year, even that's the year I graduated. The second half of it, I was in the Army. So,
okay.
Do all my training, head off to Germany, okay? Now, the downside of being in Germany in the Army when I was a young man, we did not really listen to the radio, okay? We really, because we had Armed Forces Network radio. Okay. So it was subjected to whatever they wanted to play, and usually it was a lot of commercials about the Armed Forces Network radio and about the Post Exchange, Base Exchange, and AFES, and all that other boring shit, and commentaries from Air Force personnel.
This is something I never knew.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
And so, I mean, what we did was everybody had CDs, and if you went to the Post Exchange or the Base Exchange, the PX, what you did was you would wait for stuff to come out. So the stuff that we got usually came out after everybody else got it, in the States, really.
Okay.
But the nice thing was I probably bought more music in Germany than anywhere else I've lived, because that's what we did. We would go to the store and be like, I don't even know this band. I'm going to buy this CD. So that's what we did.
Was timing the same? If it hit in the U.S., was it hitting in Germany about the same time, or was there a general delay before a U.S. band, say, would make a CD that goes to Germany?
I think that the timing was about the same. And okay. I know that some American bands do release stuff in Europe first, but I don't know if Germany is considered that part of it, because, Britain seems to get a lot of the music. Okay. A lot of it seems to get first. But the delay happens because of the way I understand it, is because the military or those exchanges purchase stuff later than it would have come out in the United States. So if you expected a release date of an album, you might not get it right away at our exchange in Germany. Now, you could go out onto the open market and buy it, like in Germany, downtown, but it would be an astronomical price. It really was.
You guys really would have benefited if iTunes and things like that had existed.
Exactly. Well, I mean, just to tell you the difference, right? Because I had friends that were Germans, girls. I didn't know any German guys. And, if they couldn't really ask you to buy stuff for them, because that's kind of considered, I don't know if it's considered illegal, but like they have ration cards and stuff like that. And if you, for example, they back then they may have paid almost $200 for a pair of jeans.
Oh, wow.
Or for a Converse, they paid a shitload of money. So,
because they were still Eastern influenced, and
which is dumb because the wall was down. But yeah, it was it was a bizarre thing to think about, that you have to pay like if I went shopping out with my German friends to see like a CD would be just a shitload of money for a CD.
Wow.
So we of course bought our stuff at the exchange. So we might have to wait a little bit longer, but we had a really good exposure to lots of different types of music. So, like I said, I would go there, and the girl who was my girlfriend at the time, who was American, who I ended up was my wife, she was a very, she liked things like, like The Cure and the Smiths and U2 and stuff like that. So she exposed me to a lot of different music in that respect. And she would do that too. She would go buy bands that she didn't even know who they were.
Gotcha.
And so we would listen to those. I'm like, oh, this is kind of a nice way to expose yourself to different types of music. Because if you remember like the types of music I listen to, like I listen to the stuff that you guys listen to, like, Whitesnake and Poison and Motley Crue and stuff like that. But I also listen to rap probably more than most people did. I've told this story before. When I was in Germany, I was listening to rap, and I got a big pounding on my door when I was in the barracks, and they're like, you can't listen to that. told this by a bunch of little white guys. Big
Oh,
white,
wow.
actually, big white guys. You know, you can't listen to that. I'm like, what? I don't know what you mean. They're like, you're not black. And I'm like looking at myself going,
Close enough.
holy shit, thanks for telling me. I had no idea that I wasn't black. I'm also not white.
So you're not allowed to listen to urban music because you're not black.
Yes.
All right, then I shouldn't have been listening to hairband music either because I couldn't scream.
And I didn't have poodles on my head.
Right.
No,
And
so
I didn't like to wear makeup.
So basically, what they were saying was like, you have to listen to like Metallica and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I'm like, really? I'm pretty sure I've got to listen to like Julio Iglesias and shit like that. Maybe some La Bamba. But anyway, and so I did start kind of doing that. So I listened to things like that, but I had the influence of my girlfriend's music. And then I had the influence of like my roommate's music, and he listened to all kinds of crazy shit too because he would do the same thing. He would go and buy music. Mm-hmm. So you listen to all these different things. Like every morning he was playing Queen. He always played the damn bicycle song every fucking morning. Like, what the fuck do we have to listen to the bicycle song?
All the amazing songs that Freddie Mercury did.
But he's got, I want to ride my bicycle.
If I had to wake up to that every day, oh
To
Lord.
ride my bicycle. Yeah, every day. And so what I'm saying is this. I was exposed to different types of music, which is good. But I hate to say this. I really do hate to say this. My biggest musical influence of the time was my ex-wife. It kind of actually, it's almost like taking a knife and sticking it in that tender spot that is known as the taint, what we in the medical field call the perineum. It's kind of like having a knife stuck in there, but it's true actually.
To credit her with anything.
To have to credit her with anything other than making my life a miserable mess and giving me the beautiful child that is my son. Which,
Right.
Yeah, I thank her for that. But anybody could have done that. But no, the musical. I learned to listen to the Violent Femmes from her and Nirvana and The Cure, which I love The Cure. U2, not so much. It's all right, but those basically that's what I'm talking about. So all these different ones that I normally probably wouldn't have listened to.
We're quite similar in that way. My ex-wife introduced me to some of the same bands. Violent Femmes for sure. A little bit The Cure. A little bit of the mainstream stuff I wasn't listening to because I was hung up on the stuff I loved, Same type of story. Matter of fact, if I think of Nirvana, I think of her because that's basically who I was dating, and she came to me with the first song that came out and was like, "Dude, you got to hear this. It's different than everything,"
Right.
So yeah, same kind of experiences. They were sort of the same. They were introducing us to new stuff, and I'd probably still be listening to the same crap I was listening to in 1990 if that hadn't happened.
Right.
I wasn't open-minded, that's for sure.
No, I think that I was pretty open-minded on music. Mm-hmm. Obviously, coming from a redneck town like that, thankfully, you didn't come from that town,
Right.
but you were exposed to it. You got the injection up the ass of our town, basically.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that I'm pretty lucky in that respect that I did have a pretty good understanding that you have to listen to more than one type of music.
Right.
I totally credit our friends with exposing me to like Whitesnake and Great White and Motley Crue and all those things.
Right.
And when I listen to that music, I think of you guys.
Right.
That's what I think. I'm like, okay, I think of those guys because that's the gift that one of the gifts that you guys gave me. They're like, no, John, listen to this. Go ahead, give this a listen. I'm like,
Right.
Okay, and that's where I learned about the hair bands and the rock and that sort of thing.
I've got you for Beastie Boys.
Yeah, I always play. Yeah, I would roll up playing.
I had
License
no
to
idea
Ill.
what Paul Revere was when we did our thing with Paul Revere. So
Still a great song.
still a great song.
Still a great song. It's a great song. It's a great song. Yeah, so talking about musical influences. Now, when I listen to that music, though, which I still love, I don't think of my ex-wife.
That's good.
I do not. And what's interesting is when I talk to my son about his music and like what influences, he can rattle off a lot of the bands that I listen to.
Yep.
And say, this is what reminds me of what of you. I know that you like these bands. I know that these are your bands, and I like that music too.
That's awesome.
Which is cool. But taking us back to a topic of today, which is Nirvana and Kurt Cobain, the men of Nirvana, which I really only know 3 of them. I don't know the original drummer's name. My bad. Sorry, original drummer. If you listen to this podcast, I'll look it up next time. But I'm talking about, Dave Grohl and Christ, whose last name I can never pronounce.
I don't
Of
know.
course,
I can't remember either.
But I'm with you, man. I think when Nevermind came out is when my ex-wife was like, "Hey, this is Nirvana. You listen to this," and you're like, "Oh my God, what the fuck is this?"
Right. Yeah, that was an instant. Got to go out and buy it. Like, this is right now. This is something like I've never heard before. We got to go out and get this. Check it out. I had the entire. Was it a tape then or a CD? I think it was a tape. I think it's cassette tape at that point.
Yeah, you could still get tapes cheap. They were cheaper than CDs at that time. So a CD was like $15, and you could get a cassette tape for 10 or something like that.
Yep. I had the entire thing memorized inside of 3 days. Like, I knew every song on that thing inside of 3 days because it was just so amazing to me. We had been listening to Cotton Candy up to that point, and before that, it was stuff your parents listened to. My parents were soft rock and easy listening type of. I mean, there was an education there. They introduced me to the Beatles and the things like that I really still love. But as far as having heard anything like grunge, nah, that was all new to me. That was really neat, and I was hooked.
Right. I was actually surprised that I was hooked because it's not that I wouldn't say that I'm a conservative person, but when you think of people in like the Army, especially the job I did as an infantryman, where it's supposed to be this, you're a killer.
Right.
There is an ideal that you're not some long-haired hippie person or that sort of thing. So the fact that I really liked that music, when you look at that lifestyle that is, quote, the grunge lifestyle, I was like, that's so not what I am.
Right.
But the idea behind, like a lot of the lyrics and how he was, I guess not pissed off, but mocking life in general, where I'm like, that's really cool. And the sound is cool, and his voice is cool. And so the whole idea is great, but when you look at it, you go, that would be something I would make fun of, be like, fuck, look at these hippies over here. But they're not hippies, but still, same basic premise.
I don't know what the word for him would be. I mean, it was altogether new. I mean, Neil Young-esque type of garb. It's sort of just a different type of sound altogether.
Yeah, and really when you looked at how they all dressed or their idea of what the grunge scene dressing was, I'm like, that's how everybody in Michigan dresses.
Right. We've been grunge since 1987.
like we dress that way because we're cold.
Right. Well, they did too, actually.
Yeah, we're cold. They're cold and wet. Yeah,
right.
We're just really cold. I mean, we're wet too, but not as wet as they are.
He was cold and homeless. So.
Yeah, right. Living under a bridge.
Right.
Living under a bridge. No, but here's the thing that always kills me about Nirvana, and about Kurt Cobain specifically. Not that I don't ever think about the other two main guys, but I actually think about Nirvana and Kurt Cobain on a weekly basis. I bet there's not a week that goes by that I don't think about Nirvana and Kurt Cobain. Even if I don't hear one of their songs.
I was going to ask, is it music influence?
No, it's not even music influence. I just think about, I'll sit here, I'll be going about my day, and it's almost like if you ever had, like my grandma passed away when I was 12 years old, and I'll just have a straight thought thinking about my grandma.
Okay.
And I was 12. That's, oh my God, 34 freaking years ago when my grandma passed away.
Right.
But she was a huge influence on my life, and I think about her fairly often. Like just the life lessons she taught me, or what a badass she was, and how she'd drive really fast in her car, and she'd let us kind of climb in through the doors like we were the Dukes of Hazzard, that sort of thing.
Right.
But I'll think about Kurt Cobain fairly frequently.
Okay.
And just think about how great his music was and how I wish he never died.
Okay. Yeah, I've been that. I've had that thought process before.
And these are, and when those things happen, sometimes if my daughter's around or if my son's around or something, I'll just kind of mention like how important that music was to me.
Right.
Which, if you listen to the lyrics, you're like, if you never knew who Nirvana was now, if you somehow don't know who that is, and I'm sure there's people out there that don't, and you got a written transcript of the lyrics and you read them, and your father said to you or your kid said, man, this music meant so much to me. Right. And they read it, they're like, "What? Why? What the fuck are you talking about?"
Sounds like
why
a bunch
does
of
Polly
random
want?
sentences.
Why does Polly want a cracker? I don't understand.
Yeah, if you read
all
the
in all
lyrics,
is all we are. What I don't understand what it is that you I don't know what you're talking about right now.
Right.
But when the music comes on the radio, I do get deeply affected by it when I hear it, and I think that one of the funny things about it also is, much like much of the music that we listened to growing up, when we were preteen and then teen and young adults, a lot of that music you can't understand.
It's true.
Pearl Jam, I don't understand half the shit that Eddie Vedder says.
No, you just had to acknowledge that. Hey, the dude could sing.
Right. I like his voice a hell of a lot.
Right.
Yeah. At least with Kurt Cobain, you could understand most of his stuff, but you could still make shit up. Like, but I can still, I don't know. It's just something about his voice for me personally. And
angst riddled.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Is it that what it is?
For me, it was. I was 18 years old, man, and angst was what it was all about. He was screaming at the universe, That's what it seemed like to me. And he was saying stuff that everybody else, up until that point, you had pretty limited subject matter. You were singing about love or partying and getting laid. I mean, that was pretty much most of every song, or, relationships or things like that. And he came out screaming about depression and, voices in his head and, just things that nobody had ever touched on before. And as an 18-year-old, you're feeling all that stuff. You're riddled with angst and you are mad at the world and everybody sucks but you, and that's exactly what he was screaming to us. So for that, that's why I was hooked immediately. I mean, he was saying all the stuff that I didn't have the balls to come out and say myself, And
it made you feel better to just listen to it.
Right.
Like, it's not one of those it's not depression music. Like, when I was really depressed, if I was going through breakups or whatever as a young man, my go-to CD or my go-to music to listen to feel sorry about myself and drink, like, oh man, yeah, oh my God, was The Cure. So I can also thank my ex-wife for that too, because my ex-wife is the one who introduced me to The Cure. And I still love The Cure, but I'm like, there's no better music to listen to when you're sad about anything.
You just want to fall deeper into your depression.
Thank you so much. You know exactly what I'm going through right now. Why?
That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. But you can listen to Nirvana whether you're sad, happy, whatever. And to me, it just picked me up, man.
It blows off the steam. It doesn't sink you deeper like The Cure would or like Blue Monday would. It blows that steam off and gives you a venue for it. You can shake your fist at it and get over it. It's not feeding depression. It's I guess just getting it out of you.
Yeah, maybe it's kind of like
exercising the demons.
It's like shaking your fist at the world.
Right, right. That's what I'm trying to get
Hear me
at.
roar, motherfucker.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's obviously when you talk about these things with what musicians meant or what poets meant or what writers meant, who the fuck knows?
Yeah, no.
And I'm sure there was lots of interviews with Kurt Cobain about what did his music mean, what does this mean, and a lot of it was like, dude, I wrote a fucking song.
Right, yeah.
It's a fucking song. I write lots of songs. I write songs.
Right.
How much are you going to read into it? I wrote this song for me or for whatever. It doesn't have to mean anything.
What was that song about? It's about people asking what this fucking song is about.
Like, rape me. Like, rape me. What, I don't know. What was that one about? I really, it's some of it as time goes by, because I'm only talking about, when you talk about Nirvana, you're talking about specifically kind of 2 albums, right?
In general. I mean, I know the radio hits off of all of them, but I was deeply embedded through Nevermind, and then I kind of, in raising kids and things like that, kind of actually lost touch with the idea that they'd even put out any more albums for a long time and didn't fall back in love with them again until I was well into adulthood. Mm-hmm. And then discovered, Unplugged in New York, and then kind of thought, well, what album's that on? And check out that album. But my knowledge base is always Nevermind. It's not, I don't have the expertise on the other albums as much.
Right, and I think it's important that you don't have to know all that other stuff to know. You could only know one song, and it could have a specific meaning for you, and you're just as big a fan as anybody else is. I always just like one of my friends. He's very big into music, very good singer, and he made a comment once that if you get the greatest hits, you're not a fan. That's what he kind of said. So if your only album is the greatest hits. For that band, then you're really not a fan. I'm like, well, yes and no. I'm like, because unfortunately the greatest hits that are put out are not necessarily the ones that you want.
Right.
And you would know that if you get the greatest hits and you're like, that doesn't even have all the songs I like. This
Right.
is some pinhead's idea of what the greatest hits are.
Right.
So that doesn't exactly ring true, but I can see what he's saying.
I agree with it on some level. Like if you haven't, I don't know, checked out their more obscure music, a lot of the artists that I love the most, I love their obscure stuff, not the radio hits. I will kind of shy away from the radio hits on a lot of. I understand his point, I guess is what I'm trying to get at, but I don't feel that way. Sometimes it's more of an homage to buy the greatest hits than you listen to the stuff you love all the time. You
Right.
know? So I'm on both sides of that fence.
Yeah, I'm on both sides of it also because I understand what he's saying, but I don't think it detracts or makes you any less of a fan if that's what you got.
Yeah,
the
I don't
greatest
think so.
hits. For example, for now, you can buy singles all day long if you go on your iTunes or whatever you want and buy that stuff. You don't have to buy an album. You're like, okay, well, I know what I like. This is what I'm going to get, and I don't have to get the whole album. But for us, where originally we didn't have the opportunity to buy all that shit, obviously you're going to listen to stuff and back in the day we're like, oh, either you hit the 8-track button to go to the next track, which is really going far back, or you move the little needle on the record
player,
which
yeah.
was easier than a cassette tape.
Absolutely.
By far.
Cassette-
Cassette tape, you just forward. No, that's not it. Backward. No, rewind.
Oh crap!
No,
I passed
no,
it.
God damn it!
Son of a bitch.
Oh, this is ruining the mood. All I want to get is slippery when wet. Oh, that's all it. This is it right here. No, and I guess my point with going with that was you don't have to know every song that Nirvana ever played to be a fan.
Right.
You don't have to know who the members are to be a fan.
Right.
That's one of those things that kind of drives me crazy when people will talk to me about a band and they'll be like, oh, yeah, so-and-so on bass. I'm like, I don't fucking know who the fuck that
Right.
is. Half the time, I don't even know what the bands are. Half the time, I don't know what the names of the songs are, honestly. Right. I'm like, but I know what I like, and that's what I like to listen to. If I spent all my time researching what a band member's name was, well, what the fuck is wrong with me if I do
Right.
that?
How much time you got on your hands?
I'm like, I have a limited capacity in my brain in the first place that I have to deal with shit for work without putting all this other. I mean, admittedly, I would like to have that information more than my work information, but what's going to make me money is different from my ability to spout off bass players for Three Non Blondes. I don't know if Three Non Blondes has a bass player. I don't freaking know.
Right.
So anyway,
Strange choice of bands to use for an
I don't
example.
know.
I can tell you the lead singer married Darlene from the Roseanne show. That's pretty
Are you
interesting.
shitting me?
No joke at all.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I found it out like on TV one day. They were talking about each other and like they're married. That's makes sense.
Trivia. Yes, trivia. Thank you very much for that trivia.
There's something my brain will kick something important out to remember.
So back to time frames. Here you are, young man. Never mind.
All right, never mind. I guess it's done.
No, never mind. Come on, man.
Yeah,
I didn't think you were going to ask another question.
I was waiting. I can actually remember what the car was I was sitting in the first time I heard Smells Like Teen Spirit. I can remember vague location of where I was in that car the first time I heard.
Pretty sure.
Because it was that big of a difference from the stuff I was listening to that it stopped me in my tracks. If I'd have been driving, I'd have pulled over. You know what I mean? Like, it was that big of a deal to me. I was like, what is this stuff? Hell yeah. You know, and Rockfist.
You threw your poison in the back seat.
I
Fuck
did.
you, poison.
I sort of, like at that point in my life, I sort of started to acknowledge that maybe Bret Michaels was a tool and this guy was singing the song I wanted to hear. Like, that's really how that went down. It did. It was a change of everything, even musically, the stuff I wanted to play. As far as playing guitar and being in bands and stuff, I was like, man, this is more where it's at now. But at the same time, there was sort of a sad let go of that. That'd been my stuff. That the hair band and power ballads and things like that had been my jam since 7th grade, you know. Mm-hmm. And now I'm a senior or junior in high school, and I was a senior for sure, and it's a whole nother ball of wax. Like this is changing everything that I ever believed in with music, and it sounds super over the top to say that, but it really was. It changed everything that I wanted to do with music. So that one between Nirvana and Pearl Jam, everything changed, you know. And I hate to admit it now, but it's true. you know. Mm-hmm. And now, like, I'll listen to some of that old stuff that I thought was the greatest music on earth now, and it's got like 3 chords in it.
Well, it's fun.
Yeah.
But it's fun music.
It's there's...
I mean, honestly, most songs are 3 chords.
Right, it's true. I mean, you learn 3 certain chords, you played just about any song.
Anything.
But he was doing these weird minor changes and weird power chords and stuff that I hadn't heard before, you know. And so I was like, I mean, the first time I sat down to try to learn to play one on guitar, it was different.
Yeah, I mean, if you just Teen Spirit, right? Is that the one I'm thinking of? Just where he's like, so just keep talking. Yeah. The Beaveman does not play guitar. The Beaveman has been playing guitar since his son was a baby, and still not any better than the first time I picked it up.
Ditto.
Still not any better. So to give you some indication, then the Beaveman's baby is 21 years old. So after all these years, still not any better. So when you're talking about weird things that Kurt did, here's the one I think of. Like, okay, that is just off the wall, bizarre, and weird.
That was a break from a heavy bass drop or heavy bass thump, though. So
Yeah,
you
you're
got
right.
this driving thump, 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 and it gives you a little break. Ding, ding. Think about it.
Can anybody hear that? Can you hear that? Is it just in my head? But that got us all though. We're like, what
Right.
the fuck is that?
I never even thought of that till you brought it up. Like, that really was something different. Like, ding,
But a lot of
ding,
his
make you
shit is.
stop.
You're like, what the? Dude, and you're just listening. You're like, what the? Why am I so? Why is this affecting me so much? Why am I just listening? Why am I listening? Going, this is the coolest shit ever.
Right.
And when you talk about genius music wise, I'm like, and I know a lot of people would. I guess the classical guitarist would probably rip on Kurt Cobain a little bit.
Yeah, he's a string scrubber, so to speak. But
he really wasn't. He was
Right.
actually really pretty talented.
his it was more poetic in his playing, I think, and whatever made sense in his head, his guitar playing went with the words. It, like, whatever feeling he wanted you to feel, he could make it with a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what that was about. That, again, angst felt, you'd have these big heavy riffs followed by ding ding. You'd be like,
Well, I think if he would have been, if Kurt Cobain would have been classically trained, even just if he'd have taken a lot of lessons, I mean, I'm sure he took lessons. I'm sure as a little
he had
kid.
an aunt that gave him some minor, like, taught him the basic chords, and that's
Yeah.
pretty much the extent of what he had.
But if he had had more, I think we probably wouldn't have got a lot of that bizarre sound.
I think it would have changed a lot of stuff and maybe not put it where it is now. I don't know. It's hard to.
I feel like he would have
surmise.
got his hand slapped a lot by a music teacher and been like,
Absolutely.
"What the fuck are you playing? What is? No, that doesn't sound right."
Right.
No, but that's the thing, is that music just kind of speaks to you when you listen to it.
Well, he had a general distaste for popular music anyway. He's a punk kid. And he had a general distaste for any of the popular music that was going on at the time, for sure. And general pop culture, he just hated it. Hated all that stuff. And so for him to just create something completely different was completely his persona,
Here's the thing that I've learned from my Nirvana and Kurt Cobain research that I've been doing now for a couple weeks, that included, reading books, watching documentaries, listening to the music more than usual, is that his music, and this is what I did not know, in which it's kind of a slap in the face, is considered, Nevermind is considered pop.
It's now considered pop. I can't even comprehend that. Because it was standing on the line of punk the first time we heard it. It was something totally wrong.
Yeah, and when you think about some of the documentaries talk about too that the grunge movement in Seattle is saying that one of the documentaries I watched said that actually Nirvana missed the grunge movement. That was actually earlier, so they came at the very end of it, so technically it wouldn't have been grunge either. And I'm like, what?
I
What?
100% disagree with that.
I disagree with that also because I'm like, okay, so let's say, for example, even though that when you talk about grunge, that's usually the band that comes to most people's mind.
Yep,
is
them or
Nirvana.
Pearl Jam, one or the other.
And so you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. And the pop aspect of it doesn't make any sense to me unless what their definition of pop is how much of the general public it reaches.
That's probably
Or
it.
what stations it will
music.
go on.
What made the most money? That's probably more likely the thing and how it can cross over. Are they calling Eddie Vedder pop because he was sort of the gun that led all that? I mean, I don't hear him.
Yeah, would you call Soundgarden pop?
Yeah, exactly. If that's fitting into the pop category now, then we should be much further in music than we are.
Right. Well, and then if you look at even this weird kind of, when you talk about weird, not weird, but like really creative also, not just like Kurt Cobain, but if you take a different angle and like I would say maybe a happier music, but again, music that makes you go, oh, what the fuck was he doing? But I like it. Is if you look at like Beck, right?
Oh yeah.
Would Beck be considered pop?
Beck is
See, I would think that's alternative.
He's alternative underground almost. He's almost anti-radio hit. You know what I mean? Like he really kind of isn't focusing to get that. I don't think Cobain was either, though. He kind of hated it that happened. But he's a conundrum in the fact that he wanted to be famous but didn't want to be famous. You know? But if he heard the pop thing, he'd probably roll over in his grave right now.
Well, I didn't write it, and I get a little irritated when I see that. I'm like, it really was Nirvana? And I think that my thinking is I'm not a music aficionado. I don't know the terms, and I don't know what genre each music category it falls into, for example. But I think that maybe they're saying that Nirvana is pop because of the wide range of music stations it would be on.
I
would be my guess.
Agree with that.
Because, for us, 103.3 in Battle Creek area here in Michigan has been the pop rock station since I was a little kid.
Right.
So and it is now. So if I want to know what's on the radio now, what the young children are listening to,
what the kids these
are listening to, I can go to that station and not know what the fuck is on the radio. Now, they'll still play old shit too that I know what it is, but they play plenty of stuff that I have no idea what the fuck it is, and it's the station that my daughter would be most likely be listening to.
Right, and ironically, as much as I am open-minded with music these days and appreciate everything, it's the station I definitely don't have programmed into my automotive, receiver. I don't listen to it. Whether that means I'm stuck in the past is not really true. I just find things I like better than what's hitting the radio. Right? It feels like no talent involved, know. And I kind of wonder if my dad said that when Cobain started getting hits.
Well, fuck him if he said that.
Because I don't want to be that funny dude that goes, your music is just shit today. I can't, but it's actually just shit today for the most part.
The music today is formulaic. In other words, they know what the formula is to make a tune that will actually stimulate the brain the correct way for it to become a hit. They know how to do that. And
I feel like I could sit down by myself in a studio with a computer and make the same exact type of hits and not have to have any talent involved in it. A lot of the rap today sounds like just random sentences. There's no storyline. There's no sense to it. So yeah, I kind of have a tendency to shy away from the pop. So when they call that pop, it makes my hair stand up almost. Like that wasn't pop. That was us breaking out of our cage, man. That was the good stuff,
Well, you'll see too that. So when I think of pop, we're really not straying from the subject. If you think we are, fuck you. When I think of pop, honestly, I think of the king of pop. So I always think of Michael Jackson. I'm like, to me, if you say that it's pop, I'm like, okay, how does this compare to what Michael Jackson did? It has a
nice beat and I can dance to it.
Yeah. But it's my understanding that the king of rock and roll was also considered pop.
Right.
So there I get really confused. I'm like, how is Elvis pop? And is it because pop itself is a short term for popular, and that's what they're saying? By
definition, it's popular music, and that's probably why he got labeled like that, or why Kurt Cobain got labeled like that. He took off like a bat out of hell, and everybody on the planet just about was listening to him in 1992, and so, yeah, popular.
Right. So if you look at the stations that have I don't think we have one anymore. Grand Rapids, I think, used to have an alternative station. I don't know if they do anymore. I think it was Grand Rapids.
There's some college-based alternative out of Grand Rapids.
So that was that's like my favorite. I'll look, and I mean, and then when I had Sirius, I was like, okay, where's the Alt Nation and stuff like that. Those are the ones that were my top picks.
Right.
And to me, there's no pop music on there.
No, I wouldn't feel like that.
I'm like, they're playing,
that's
like
kind
you
of
said,
the point.
they're playing Soundgarden, and they're playing Pearl Jam, and they're playing Stone Temple Pilots, and they're playing Nirvana and things like that. I'm like, there's not. I mean, there might be the Chili Peppers on there.
Yeah, they're kind of a weird line.
Yeah, they're a weird line. Are they rock? Are they pop? Are they grunge? Or I don't know. Chili Peppers are their own thing, in my opinion.
Yep.
Totally different band. But that's where I get a little bit confused on trying to decipher what the actual genre is. Let's talk about, you said Nevermind. I like them both. I'm a big fan of the MTV Nirvana in New York, MTV Unplugged. That was really good.
Best album, in my opinion, ever made. Honestly,
ever made
in my
like
I guess in my lifetime.
That. Like anyone could even know that.
Right. The best one in my lifetime, I think. I mean, you can't get into the Beatles and things like that and compare. It's apples and oranges. But as far as my time frame and the music I'm listening to, that's one of the best albums I've ever heard.
Yeah,
easily.
I really like it.
And the funny thing is, they had no idea that's what they were creating. They were just starting a whole trend, a whole brand new thing that nobody was really doing yet. You know.
Did you know that out of all the, and I am assuming this is true because I heard this on, I don't remember what source it was, and it was not the ladies at JCPenney's, but I heard that when they did the MTV Unplugged and Nirvana did it, Nirvana is the only band that's done MTV Unplugged that did not have to redo a song while they were playing it. In other words, they didn't start a song and be like, oh, we fucked this up, and have to do it again.
I'm going through the list of ones I've heard. I know Tesla had to start over on one. I can't imagine Clapton did.
I don't know. That's the information that I got. If there's any Beaveman and the Doc listeners out there who can disprove me, then hey, this is an idiot podcast. And as I state over and over again, I am an expert of nothing.
Sometimes we just say things to see if you argue with us.
Yeah, if you don't fucking like it, then correct us.
No,
At least reach out, for goodness sake.
I could see that because the point of the music wasn't perfection. Mm-hmm. If you fuck up, just keep rolling.
Right.
I don't even see why. I don't understand why anybody be playing live unplugged and start over.
Do you think it was an odd pick though for some of the songs that they decided to go with? Not all the songs were Nirvana songs.
Yeah, some of the covers they did. I mean,
they're like the Meat Puppets.
The Meat Puppets was the one that I was thinking of in my head.
They did David Bowie.
David Bowie, yeah. Man Who Sold the World, which was a great rendition of that song.
Oh, the album is just totally solid. Period. It is
absolutely
like you said. It's my favorite too.
Yeah, that's one that I listen to that and I want to pick up my guitar and play. That's one of those ones that does that to me. Like, I don't think I make it through the whole album and I'm imagining songs in my head that I want to pick up and play. You know, it's just killer. It's a killer album. Yeah,
when I listen to Nirvana, and like as I said, I'm not a good guitar player. I suck. But when I listen to Nirvana, I'm the same thing. I'm like, I should really play my guitar.
Right. It kind of does that to you. Okay, then its purpose has been created, you know.
And his music is not impossible to play.
No, it's pretty.
When you look at some shit, you're like, oh my god, how the fuck am I going to play that?
Right, a Slash.
Yeah, like, this will never happen.
Slash has 15 fingers on his fret hand. It's fine.
They're going extremely fast. Angus Young. I'm like, I don't think anybody's fingers should naturally move that fast.
Right. His leads and stuff are ridiculous.
As you're dancing across the stage, I'm like, how is that even possible, Sir Angus? I don't know. But no, it makes me want to pick up a guitar. I just think about the choices that they made for the songs on Unplugged, just to see were they wise choices. And wonder how much you'll see stuff about how maybe MTV was like, what the fuck are they playing?
I feel like maybe that was the point for them.
Like, fuck you, we're going to do it, but it's kind of like...
Both middle fingers in the air, like, and we're going to play what we want to play. We're going to be a self-serving band, and this is what we love to listen to. Y'all should check it out. Because how many people would have ever heard the Meat Puppets song?
Right.
Ever. Nobody that was listening to Nirvana at the time probably would have even known. I didn't know. I didn't know it was a cover till I was much older.
Well, I don't know how much of the stuff that they were actually playing in concert, too.
Right.
Like, if they were playing covers in concert.
I'm sure of a deep regret. Boy, I'd love to see them in concert. Yeah. That's a real bummer.
Yeah, if you could just come back.
Just one day. Just one day.
that's all
Just
we
play a
ask.
concert.
And just please make it reasonably priced.
And don't tell anybody but me.
Yeah, I would be cool with that too. I'd be cool with that. I would be all right with that.
You just come play a concert in the docks or in Beaveman's backyard.
Yeah, or in the studio. It could be acoustic. It could be a nice
Right,
acoustic
right.
set. And then every once just point at me. Just point at me, Kurt, and I'll just go. I can't even do it. Kurt points. I fuck it up.
Just like when Beaveman asked me a question.
Kurt points.
There you go.
That's all I have to do. I mean, surely I could just jam out with Nirvana if they just point at me.
That's the guitar equivalent to having the triangle.
No, that would be great though. Like, can I jam with you guys? Sure. Can you play? Just point.
I know the first bar of Smells Like Teen Spirit. I'll get on it.
I probably do know the first bar.
Very close. You're in key. It's so funny because I can't even show you because I'm left-handed. That's it. But you forgot the most important part.
Oh, the chicka chicka. Okay, I'll add the chicka chicka.
That right there was more my first experience with power chords than Metallica was.
Oh my god. Please, Kurt, if you're listening. Please bless me.
His last
Bless me
concern.
now. I want to do like the Bill and Ted thing. Please send Kurt Cobain. I don't want Eddie Van Halen. Please send Kurt Cobain
Right.
to help me. Or Slash. Slash would be good.
Slash should be just fine.
He'd probably kill me though. He'd be like, God, seriously? Or what's the or Ricky Sambora?
Oh, Richie Sambora, Bon Jovi.
I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah.
Just send someone.
But-
Send someone who's going to have patience and not hit my knuckles with some. Hit my knuckles with a ruler.
If you get the spirit of Sambora, then you can say the same lyrics over again, but higher every time the lead singer sings, and that's pretty important.
All right, here it is. I'm going to go ahead and here's my I don't know. Let's try it. Let's not fuck it up. Let's pretend that I'm on MTV's Unplugged, even though I'm using an electric guitar. We'll give it a shot. I could just flip a guitar upside down and give it to Ricky, and he could play also. No! No!
I was looking for my drums. I can hear the solo
I'm
coming.
go, come as you are. Okay, let's try it again. And Ricky, you can just go ahead and come in with the vocals.
Nobody wants to hear that. Come as you are, as you were.
I wasn't expecting him to actually do it.
That's pretty hard to do when you haven't played with somebody in like 5 years. Come as you are, as you were, as I want you to be.
It's pretty good though. Yeah, it's pretty good there on your part in this.
My vocals can't find the key, but we'll sing it like we know it.
Hey, but there's a lot of times when Kurt's voice cracks while he's doing shit,
Right.
and nobody gives a fuck. They're like, "Oh, who cares, man? It's pretty fucking awesome while he's doing it." That was
Made me all sweaty and embarrassed.
like nobody's watching, man. Nobody's watching. We don't do this as a YouTube video. We just freaking do it, man.
Upon
We just
further
fucking do it.
review, this will be edited from the podcast.
No, man. If honestly, it sounded really good. If I would have been actually able to play it, the thing is, like you said, I'm like, well, I'm used to playing it, but I'm not used to playing it while somebody's singing.
Right?
Unless somebody sings it, then I'm like, hey, that actually sounds really good. Oh, maybe I should pay attention to what I'm supposed to be doing with my fingering.
Perhaps that would have been better practiced not on the podcast.
No, man, that's what makes it organic. That's what you're supposed to do.
You brought a point, though, by just playing that simple little riff that Like instantly, man, I could hear the drums come in. I could hear everything in my head that happens before the vocals go on. And I would always be on point because that's how embedded the song's going to be in my head. Like as soon as the words come out of your mouth, I know I'm not in the right key. You know what I mean? Like I know it's not the right timing. I know everything about that song to the point where, you know, if you're doing something like that, just screwing around, you already know you're messing up when you're messing up because that's not the way it goes.
Well, you know what was happening to me was I'm playing it. I'm like, just concentrate on doing this riff, whatever. And then the singing comes in. I'm like, oh man, he was right on, man. And then I fuck it all up, and I'm like, I'm supposed to keep playing this shit. I'm like I can't stop and listen. Like, oh yeah,
stop.
man.
Hey,
Oh, yeah,
just
man,
sing
right
it
on.
alone, would you?
She's like, right on, bro, right on. Just keep. What I should have done was I should just record it and just loop it, and then I just sit there and be like, yeah, okay, I got you, man.
Then you can beat on something for that drum bit that's supposed to come in. That's where all my cues come from.
Yeah, exactly. No, what else? I don't know. I think that for me, Nirvana is mostly about feelings. And it's not, maybe some of it is nostalgia when I hear it, but I'm not sure if that's it or if it just triggers something in my brain to release dopamine to make me feel better about life in general. Even though, like I said, his songs are not feel-good songs.
The answer is yes. It does it all. A funny thing, when I think of Nirvana, I don't think of Teen Spirit or any of the more popular radio songs. The one that comes to my head, if you just say, we're going to talk about Nirvana, Polly is the song that comes to my head every time. I remember listening to it for the first time thinking, what the fuck is this song about? Has he got a hostage in his basement? Like, what the hell? And then, like, the territorial pissings at the beginning, he mocks the, come on, people now, smile on your brother. And it's mocking what you know, basically, you know, and kind of pointing your middle finger or sticking your middle finger up at it. I think that's what it does for us, is it reminds us of the ability to do that. And that's what rock and roll was made for, you know?
Yeah, so Polly, right?
Yep.
Yeah, listening to Polly, and you can, I mean, who doesn't sing along with it? I mean, I sing along with it, but yeah, when you read it or when you actually look at the lyrics, it's kind of...
It's dark.
What does he mean? So Polly wants a cracker. I think I should get off of her first. I think she wants some water to put out the blowtorch. Like, okay, so what you're saying is... You've got somebody held captive, and you're touching them off with a blowtorch. You're getting medieval on somebody's ass.
And you're on top of her. Or at least on her.
Right.
I think in my head, at least the way that went down, is he had a cool-ass riff, and they started making up lyrics. And somebody went, man, that's fucked up.
Yeah,
let's make this as fucked up as possible.
Let's make this a song, man.
But for whatever reason, that's the song that comes to my head. It's not any of the bigger ones that made it. It's Polly or Territorial Pissings or, what's the one that he lived under the bridge? Dude, I can't remember the name of that song right now. That sucks.
I like About a Girl. I like Come As You Are a lot.
About a Girl's a good song.
Heart-Shaped Box.
Heart-Shaped Box is a great song.
A lot of his songs I can actually sing. Like, if I can actually sing decently. Because I think he sung wonderfully. But I guess some people would say that he didn't really have a great voice. Which I would argue. Yeah, I would argue. I think he had a great voice. Kind of like, I wouldn't say there. When I think of really good singers, I think of him. I think of, Chris Cornell.
Chris Cornell's great. Was great.
So... Those are the big, those are a couple of the big ones that I think of.
Miles Kennedy. If you haven't checked out Miles Kennedy, I suggest you look into that one.
I'll fucking do what I want
to do. As a self-proclaimed music aficionado that I am.
Yes, you. So let's briefly talk about, and I don't remember the day. I mean, I know it was 1994, and I don't remember what I was doing. I don't remember who told me. I think there's a probably good chance that that my ex-wife is the one who told me that Kurt was dead. And I remember, I do remember thinking about the loss, personally, about the loss of the music. And wondering where he would have been. And so as years go by, I just keep thinking of everything that he could have given us that we lost out on. And I can also remember being so angry that about the Foo Fighters. I remember seeing I remember getting so angry at Dave Grohl for, being in a new band.
Having the audacity to walk into a new band.
to make the Foo Fighters. And because of that, I didn't listen to the Foo Fighters for years.
I did the exact same thing. I didn't start listening to the Foo Fighters till my recent marriage.
Yeah, and I wasted years being mad at Dave Grohl for for making the Foo Fighters.
Here's my thought about that. I don't remember the moment of hearing he had killed himself. I don't remember when I knew that. I don't remember any of that. And I did get into thinking about what he could give us now recently. And what he would have given us now is absolutely zero, in my opinion. He would have been a shut-in and been sick of it. He was over it at the height of his career. Mm-hmm. He hated it. He hated the being famous. I assume maybe he would have gone the Prince route, and you'd hear a little bit out of him once in a while. And then he'd do mostly writing for other people or something.
Well, and I think that would have been great for him to write for other people. Because if you look at, and this is another one that I always think is sad, is about Chris Cornell. And like interviews with him, he talks about how he'd like to play, and he did it, where he would play other people's music. Right. But he also talks about how he'd like to be the guy who writes great music for other people too.
Right.
He does, what is it? He does a Johnny Cash. He does Johnny Cash song, and Johnny Cash did one of his songs. And but they talk about that. What a great, how it would be great to write for other people too. Right. And I think you're right. That's what Kurt would have done.
And I think he would have definitely gotten out of the limelight for sure, and hopefully gotten away from Courtney Hull.
Right, away from the big hole that is Courtney.
They were mid-divorce when everything happened with him, so I would assume that they would have been a non-issue. I would hope he would have given us a lot more jewels, but I don't think they would have been out of his vocal cords. I think they would have been written, and he'd have gone recluse, full bore.
And when you talk about the Beatles, you said you're a fan of the Beatles, and it's not that I don't get the Beatles. I do like the Beatles, right? But it's not they're not on my playlist. It's not like there's songs that I really like, and whatever. I'm not like. Even though my parents listen to the Beatles, they're just, I don't know. I don't know what it is with me and the Beatles. I like the Beatles, but they're just not on my top playlist. But when you look at John Lennon, for example, he was supposedly, not all about material things and blah, 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 but he really was. Right. And so sometimes I wonder, was that the stories about Kurt Cobain and how he didn't like the fact that jocks were listening to his music, or he didn't like the fact that he was doing so well popularity-wise, and he didn't like the spotlight and all these other things. Were these ideas that were actually implanted for the media to sell records, or was this an actual ideal of how he was?
There's something to be said for creating a persona. Yeah, that might have been the thing, too. He had the big middle finger up, fuck you persona, so he couldn't like any of that stuff. And of course, the media did gobble it up, and we all believe it. I guess there's really no way we'd ever know. No, and that's a damn shame too, I guess. But I bought it. Right. I saw an interview with him where he was just like, "It's stupid. This whole thing's stupid. I can't believe this is." And he would go, OD rather than to do a show that night, and whatever. I think he wanted it at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then once it happened, he didn't realize the impact it would have on his personal life, and then he was anti. Even if it was a persona thing to begin with, I think it became real for him because it was just impossible to live his life.
Right. Well, I mean, when you're that young and the success all of a sudden slams into you, I mean, if their first album was, I don't know if it was their first album, but the first studio album I think was Bleach.
He was homeless when that
he was like 21
recorded.
Years old. Yeah. So if you go that major success for between the age of 21 and he died at 27, right? That's a lot of that's a lot to handle for somebody that young, right? I mean, it's
especially instantaneous like that. Like it was overnight, literally.
Right. I mean, nobody we can all sit back because we're poor and be like, oh, that would be great, but at that age, that would be a lot to handle, especially the humble backgrounds that you came from.
Right. That's
where
what
you
I
came
keep
from
thinking
basically
about.
nothing, and then all of a sudden, boom. And where I think that a lot of that isn't made up, and I believe the proof that it isn't made up, is that he didn't stay in like 3-star hotels when he was on the road or anything. Like he stayed in shitty hotels
Yeah.
under different names. He still bought stuff at like, secondhand stores.
Yeah, there was actually a bit on there on either a documentary or a book that I read where he preferred to go find the little treasures in secondhand stores than to shop at big department stores and buy cool, expensive stuff, including his clothing. He just wasn't into it.
Right.
It still could be persona based, but I don't think so. I think that was really the dude. And maybe that's what made his music so appealing, is you got to see exactly who this guy was.
Right. And again, that goes back to formally trained on the guitar.
Right.
If he wasn't, I still think he was a very good guitar player. But if something had been different where he'd actually had major lessons and actually learned, I don't know how much music theory he knew, but I think that would have probably screwed the music up a little bit.
I think they're just what little I know about music theory. I don't think there was any.
My theory is there was none.
I really don't. I really don't think. I think he learned a few basic chords, learned to pop some power chords, and then played what he felt. And that in itself's a talent. I mean,
right.
You can learn. I know his aunt said she taught him like 3 or 4 chords, and he just took off. And she's got the recordings of him on tape playing in her little studio at the house when his voice hadn't changed yet, and it was strumming, string scrubbing basically.
Right. When you can feel the music, it's a little bit different. I mean, I could play shitty music and it wouldn't sound good, and you could tell that it's crap, whereas maybe he played music that was not that great, but it sounds great.
Right.
I don't know how, that's a talent. Like, how the fuck do you even?
How's
it even done?
I have an example, sort of. I tried to play a popular Guns N' Roses song. I tried to record it, and I was doing multi-track recording. I couldn't get the solo right, couldn't get anything right on it. And so I finally got irritated and just put my head back and started playing whatever the hell felt good to me rather than to try to match the song. And by the time you could hear the progression throughout the song of not the bass chords, but the solos and riffs going through it. And it's crap, crap, crap. And you can literally hear where I said, fuck it, put my head back and went after it.
Right.
And I think that's how he played constantly. Like you got that feeling that he just was pissed off or whatever feeling he was having. And I think the song probably started with the guitar in most of his cases. Oh, cool little riff here that's really, really getting it out there for me. Now let's put the words with it. I think maybe that was more the case with him. And I don't think there was any theory or knowledge behind his guitar playing other than basic knowledge of chords.
Right.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, it could be wrong, but I think that's probably pretty accurate. When you listen to some of the guitar players talk, I'm like, oh, here's this cool little riff. And then they already had lyrics written somewhere.
Right.
Because they write lyrics all the time. They just don't necessarily have the music to go with it. And they're like, oh, maybe this fits with this. And blah, blah, blah. And that's how they make music. Or these people that stay up all night and just come out with a music, like a song, and you're like, how the fuck did you? I mean, because they're just talented. They write music all the time. And it's pretty astonishing. It's pretty amazing. I'm like, well, I could never do that. But no. Where was I going with that thought? People are talented. That's what I'm going with. There are some pretty good, talented people out there. But yeah, I agree with you. I could look at a score of music and actually play it, but it's not going to sound as good as somebody actually who played it with feeling and actually went for it.
Right. It's kind of the same if you learned to play one of his songs through, but you didn't love the song, it's going to be obvious. I mean, if you learn every single chord nuance in that song, but you're playing it because it was a constant request at the bar you're playing that night and you don't really love it, that's going to come out. It's going to come through. Whereas if you're a mega fan, or even just that particular song really gets you somewhere, people listening will be able to tell that that's really the thing, and they're going to be able to, I call it buying it. They'll buy it, they'll buy it when you do it. And they'll buy your story.
Right.
And I think that's how he functioned, is basically he had to get it out of there. He had to get it out of himself.
Right. So it's a sterile version, what it is.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's a sterilized version as opposed to a clean or a dirty version.
I'm glad Beaveman's here to translate my babbling. It's very functional.
No, I understand what you're saying because that's why I feel the same way. If there's a difference between playing a song correctly and just playing it,
right?
It can pass. It can pass, and it's a lot like, not to bust on people that make music using the computer. I'm like, you have to have a talent to do that also,
right?
But the ones that use the computer but actually still play,
right? I'm
like, there's difference there, and you can see that difference. But you're making a product. When you make a product, it's a sterilized version of a piece of music that you wanted to make,
right?
And you can do that with a computer, and you can tell that you did it with a computer. But where's the feeling to it? I don't know.
I think studios and management companies and record labels do that to good songs anyway. They will take a song that was just amazing, overproduce it, and turn it into a piece of crap.
Right.
Also, what he was against, he hated that. That was one of his things that he just couldn't tolerate, was the fact that the producers would take his songs and just turn it into crap.
Right.
Maybe that's why the Live in New York was such a good album, because there wasn't that opportunity.
Well, I think in utero, they could do what they were allowed to do, whatever they want.
Yeah, because they had big hits previous.
Right, so fuck you, I can do whatever I want.
Right. And came out with a few of the best songs they've ever had.
That's great. That's a great album. Okay. Well, the other thing I was going to say, and I totally forgot what it was, I'm just going to disregard what I was going to fucking say because I can't remember what it was.
Every time he has a good point, I interrupt.
No, I mean, back to, but again, I totally regret taking it out on Dave Grohl. Should have been listening to the Foo Fighters all along.
Sorry, Dave.
Sorry, Dave. I know you listened to Beaveman and the Doc, and I apologize from the bottom of my heart because, Dave Grohl ended up being here's the thing, right? Would Dave Grohl have been as great had Kurt not died? And I'm still going to say yes, because here's the thing. Dave Grohl and Chris
Novacek? Is that what it is?
It's like Novacelic.
Novacelic?
Something like that. I'm sorry, Chris, because I know you listen to Beaveman and the Doc also.
Him and Dave Grohl listen together, actually.
Yeah, and just call in and tell me how to pronounce your name. Just forgive me ahead of time.
If you get that call, I want to be in on that.
Right. You can yell at me. I don't really care. I feel like Dave Grohl still would have been vital. And I feel like he would have gone on to have the Foo Fighters because a couple of reasons. One, he's super talented and self-taught himself. Basically, right. He says, it doesn't matter if you're good or not. Get your shit and play it. Even if it sounds like shit, just keep playing. Yeah. His advice to young people in general and to the world is, hey, it doesn't matter if you sound like shit, just play.
He said if you play with conviction, nobody will know you're fucking up.
There you go.
It's one of my favorite phrases.
So I think he would have been great no matter what. But the other reason why I think he would have been great no matter what is what people don't understand is that they had both confirmed that Nirvana was breaking up.
Yeah.
When Kurt, quote unquote, killed himself.
Yep. He was over it. And I think for Dave Grohl, even if Kurt hadn't killed himself,
quote, killed himself.
I didn't air quote, but I wanted to real bad. I think that if they hadn't broke up, he wouldn't have gotten the chance to showcase his chops. Mm-hmm. So in any direction, it would have been good for him, being that they were going to break up, and I think he would have continued to do exactly what he's doing. And not to mention, he's one of the awesomest human beings
right,
on
in
the
general,
planet.
great person, good person.
So I think nothing would have stopped him. That's for sure. I don't think he would have gone into hiding after they broke up. He would have definitely pushed something.
No, I mean, his musical influence in general and the good that he's done for the world by his positive influence,
right,
musically or otherwise, has been monumental in my opinion. And again, I apologize, Dave Grohl, for not listening to the Foo Fighters when they came out. I was angry. I'm sorry. I was angry.
We'll get past it someday.
Someday I'll get past it. All right. Well, this has been what we've done today is we've just talked about a little bit about how Nirvana affected our lives, how Kurt Cobain affected our lives. And next episode of Beaveman and the Doc, oh yeah, the Beaveman's got to do it. He's got to talk about the bullshit lie that Kurt killed himself.
I really wish we disagreed on this. It'd make for better listening.
Oh no, it's still gonna get hot.
It's gonna get milky in here.
I mean, you could throw in a disagreement occasionally just to be the devil's advocate.
Right?
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! All right, so until then, this is Beaveman from Beaveman and the Doc here at beautiful Renegade Beaver Studios. I mean, it's not. It's all right. It's cool, I guess.
I think it's wonderful.
It's all right. And saying adios, much fuckos, and thanking the Ricker for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Pika pika.